Hello guys, welcome to Buddhaland. I have something for the solar faction among you again, and Zendure was so kind and sent me a top secret device, which by now, when you see this video, has been released. And this is the all-in-one 2400 sol, 2400 sols. Whoever doesn't know them, they make these battery-powered balcony power plants, and they have come up with something new now. I acquired this item on a massive Euro pallet. I have been utilizing this for nearly a month at present, and today I simply want to provide a brief description of what you receive. You might have already watched a video regarding Zendure solarflow. This is essentially the smart PV hub from Zendure. And now they've basically released a slightly smaller solution on the market following the recent introduction of the PV Hub 2000, but we'll revisit that later. In any case, as you can easily observe in the picture provided, the object is relatively small in size and has a narrow shape. Compared to my previous solution using the PV Hub 1200 and the two AB1000 batteries, I have already noticed that this device has become more compact. This change was evident during the installation at my wife's office. However, I am curious to know what benefits or advantages we can expect from this modification. Firstly, the thing is slimmer, but the built-in battery is larger, so now you have a total of 2.4 kilowatt hours of battery capacity installed here. What else is included in this package? Apart from the PV hub, are there any other items in this box that I should be aware of? And here, just to give you a hint, this is not a PV Hub 1200, but it is also not a 2000 model that you might be thinking of. It is a somewhat improved 1200. However, I will return to the numbers shortly and provide further details. To complete the scope of delivery, it is expected to be sold as a balcony power plant set. Then you will also receive a Hoymiles inverter because you still need an inverter, but you can also use your own inverter normally. I now have my AP systems, still running with it, works without any problems. Additionally, you'll also receive 2 packages of the flexible solar panels, already presented here on the channel. What may be quite important is that you have the option to mount the thing on the wall, or there is a stand provided where you can essentially place the device on. Additionally, there is a lid on it in the event that you decide to position the object outdoors. Therefore, this is all relatively durable, space-saving, and substantial in weight. This stand holds the 30-kilo thing stable and can be set up in just a few minutes, making it really convenient. You just have to tighten a few screws and you're done. Maybe about the functionality. To conclude, we also have here what is new now, what was not available before in the PV app. There is also an LED display here. This is a light that moves back and forth on the front side and can be utilized for a variety of different functions. Primarily, the battery level is displayed in the standard mode, and then the thing fills up from 0 to 100, so to speak, and then at first glance you can see how full the battery is. Of course, you always have to look where did I actually place the thing. If the thing is in the garage, I might not care much. You can still use a few other lighting effects. Party mode, night light. If you have positioned it in your office or in any room inside the building, then it might make sense. But I have simply deactivated the thing now to save electricity. Maybe we can move on to the most important topic. What can this PV do? I've already said that, 2.4 kilowatt hours. And what is special is that we now have 2 PV inputs. The first PV input is for up to 400 W and the second for up to 800 W. This is because for the first one, it goes from 14A up to a max of 16A. And for the second PV connection, it is from 20A up to a max of 28A. You should check your panel type. Especially if you have differences, if you have the same balance, it doesn't really matter. But I have experimented with it a bit myself and tested it in various combinations to get the most out of it. But as I mentioned, you must be aware that if you have a significantly greater amount on one PV string compared to the other, simply use the appropriate PV input on the all-in-one system. The inverter itself can be powered with up to 1200 watts. Don't forget, we are here in Germany, where a maximum of 600 watts is allowed. You should still keep that in mind, even if the device here can technically do more. But you can adjust all of that in the Zendure app. On the topic of installation. The installation was relatively easy and uncomplicated. I already had do a beta version of the app, as you couldn't install it with current version, as device not listed yet. And ultimately, the actual installation process only took about 2 minutes, concluding the task for the day. In reality, attaching the stand together with the screws ended up taking me a longer amount of time than the actual installation process via this Zendure app application. You choose the device, the thing splits into 2 parts, then the WLAN data is transferred, and finally the thing is set up. So this is really child's play. Everyone should be able to do it without any problems. If you are already familiar with the Zendure topic, i.e. with a PV hub, then I can tell you this much. You basically have the same functions, the same options that you have with your PV hub 1200 or 2000, you also have here. The only additional function that comes on top is just a light option, which I already mentioned, simply to control the different light functions if you want to do that. But otherwise, in terms of electrical and smart settings, everything is the same. I have currently used this with my Shelly plugs. I can use this smart matching mode. Everything works just as reliably as with the PV Hub 1200 that I had before. However, I did notice one small thing, and that is that with my PV Hub 1200 that I used before, I actually had a relatively smooth transition. It was charged, the battery was empty, then it was no longer charged, finished. And this was also reflected in my inverter and my Shelly plugs. Then the power was completely gone. At this point, I had to come to the realization that the all-in-one system was still functioning. At night, where there is virtually no feed-in planned because the battery has reached the minimum value, as you can maybe see in the picture here, there is a regular rhythm of somehow 15, 16, 17 watts being fed in again and again. That is completely strange. I do not have it every day either. I had it on some days, but I will attribute that, let us say, to illnesses I had during my childhood, and I hope that this issue will eventually be resolved and sorted out in the near future. When considering the size of the battery, it is of course not quite as dramatic anymore, but still, I noticed this, and I noticed it because the PV Hub 1200 did not have it. But that was honestly the only problem I could find. Otherwise, the intelligent matching mode with my Shelly plugs worked wonderfully. Of course, you always have the same issue that the feed-in doesn't immediately jump to 100 watts, but slowly builds up or decreases again or something like that. But also with the bypass mode and stuff, everything worked perfectly, that the battery is charged, and when the battery is full, then basically all the power is fed into the power grid and no longer into the battery. Now, as I mentioned, approximately 4 weeks have elapsed since I started using the thing. My initial assessment is actually positive, as it is surprisingly functioning very well, considering it is the first iteration of this product. I was a bit surprised to find out that the all-in-one 2400 solution does not include the PV Hub 2000, despite the fact that the PV Hub 2000 offers even better performance in terms of photovoltaic input. There is much more space, you can connect many more panels, higher watt peak than is the case here. Perhaps there is an updated version available once more, but as of today, as I mentioned, this is an improved PV Hub 1200, yet it still has inferior charging power compared to a PV Hub 2000. Another disadvantage, if you can refer to it as such, is that with this particular solution, you do not have any potential for upgrades at the present moment. The regular Zendure batteries can be stacked on top of each other. There were now the 1000 mAh batteries, the 2000 ones, and you could easily stack them on top of each other, connect them with a cable, and you're done. That is not possible with the solution currently. You are essentially tied to the 2400 kilowatt hours. There is no additional amount available. But that should, let's say, not be a problem for the normal balcony power plant that you have at home. So I'm actually done with that now. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Please feel free to leave a subscription, as there will be more videos about the topic Zendure in the future. And if you have stayed tuned until now, kindly write #BalkonCraftwork under the comments so I know who has stayed until this point. Have a nice day, take care, ciao, ciao.